Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sharmadean Reid, the founder and CEO of Beautystack, and I'm here with Robin Klein of Localglobe, who is one of our investors for the session on turning the tables. Wow, that was professional, wasn't it, Robin?
It certainly was. Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Klein. I'm the co-founder of Localglobe. Great to be here.
Robin, let's start with a really simple, deceptively simple question of how does one become a VC? What is a VC and how do you do it?
Deceptively simple. It's quite complex to answer that. A VC is a venture capitalist. A venture capitalist invests capital, normally not their own. So they will have a fund into which investors will place their capital, and in turn, the venture capitalists will invest in companies. Generally, I mean, it's called venture capital because it is the riskier end of investing. And in our case, we invest early in tech-related companies or tech-enabled companies. What was the other part? How does one become a VC? I mean,
your career in venture capital?
Well, my own career, I started as a founder. I'm an engineer by profession. I studied engineering.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, I don't generally hide it, but on the other hand, I don't often talk about it. But yes, I did a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and a master's in industrial engineering, which is about manufacturing. To this day, I still love factories. So there's something about them that I find very exciting. Anyway, so that was, started as an engineer, then a founder. I founded a few businesses and built those up. And after I sold those, I started angel investing. And that's actually a pretty good way to become a venture capitalist, is to start to angel invest small amounts of money in companies that you like, in founders that you have faith in founders with whom you share a dream. Because I think that's the key, and that's what we talk about a lot at Localglobe, is sharing the dream of a founder. And but otherwise, there's no formal structure to becoming a venture capitalist. It is a learn-on-the-job profession, if you like, if you want to call it a profession. So it's almost like an apprenticeship. You learn while you're doing it.
Your journey is one of two types of journeys that over my short period of being in technology and venture capital, I've realized that some have had, which is you start off as a founder, you have an exit, you're sitting on this cash and you start angel investing and take it from there. But another journey for venture capitalists is you come from a finance background, you've done consulting, you might work in private equity and be like, this is too slow, the excitement's in venture capital, I want to dive there. What do you think is the difference between these two types of venture capitalists, and what can a founder learn from these different personality types?
Well, that's really interesting, and I think the good firms have got a blend of people with different experiences, and the diversity of their backgrounds and their approaches and their experiences bring a lot to companies. So you're quite right. I mean, people come from finance background, from engineering, people have worked in startups. I think it's a pretty good way, if you're going to invest in a startup, to actually have worked in one, not necessarily to have been a founder, but even, being involved in a high growth startup business is a very good way to get into venture capital. And I think that what one's looking for, what we look for, is not necessarily somebody who's got lots of experience in it, but somebody who naturally has empathy for founders, has an idea of what it takes to build a business. It's a hard thing to do. I don't have to tell you, it is one of the hardest things you can do. And I think an understanding of that process is like really important. You know, analysis of the numbers, analysis of the market, and so on. Yes, important, but you know, it's not what separates the good from the great.
Yeah, this is easily, running a startup is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And one of the things I love about Localglobe is because you guys are former founders, I feel that there's a lot more understanding and also realism. I remember, Robin, like in the early days when I was like, I'm going to get all of these users, thousands of them, and you were like, just start in the beginning. And it's like, I always think about that because it's that realism that I was like, oh yeah, just take it one step at a time. Because when you've been there, you know that sometimes it takes a little longer than you'd like to think. Almost always it takes longer. Given that, why did you choose seed instead of later stage to focus your efforts on? Because it really is it's the ignition part, is the jump start of the journey. And while it can be the most exciting, you've also got a far higher risk of people falling out the game. Tell me about your choice for seed stage.
Yeah, look again, you're 100% right. The failure rate is high, but I mean, you know, my journey was from angel to investing, so it was quite natural to start with smaller startup companies. But that's the part I really enjoy. It's the part we generally, the team at the Localglobe generally enjoys that early stage, because you're working really closely with the founders. And, you know, making the transition from being an operator, where I was running a company in the way that you do, to being an investor was not easy, I have to say. And the hardest part of it was actually letting go and saying, you know what, this is not your business. You're just a member of the team. And, you know, you play your part and be a great member of the team. You'll help to build a great business. But don't ever get confused that it's your business. And I think sometimes VCs cross over that line and start to act as if, you know, this is their business, or at least the founder starts to become the management, if I can put it like that. And, you know, I really don't, you know, try and avoid getting into that position. And I think it took me a little while to learn.
I think it also relies on the responsibility of the founders to be able to push back on the investors also and realize this is our business, or this is you know, something that we know and think about 24/7 and do day in, day out. Because I know for me and in my journey, when you raise capital, there is definitely a power dynamic that I've spoken about previously, being female, but also being Black, that you suddenly think that these people, you know, investors, they are the oracles. They know exactly what to do for me, for my business. You know what I mean? And it's funny because Saul, who's Robin's son and, you know, who I speak to frequently, Saul was like, you do whatever you want. This is your business. It's your money now. But it definitely took me a long time to realize that we actually have the power to be able to define what the relationship is. You know, with an investor, which in itself is like, there have been many, many conversations amongst founders about how you build that relationship. In terms of the Oracle point of view, can you tell me the one thing that's united all your successful exits? Because the life cycle of a fund, as you know, is often reported, is around 10 years. And you're investing so early on day dot, that over the decades that you've been working, you've had many, many successful companies exit or IPO. What unites them all? And did you know from seed that they were all going to be successful?
Well, the answer to the second part is easy. No, of course we didn't know that they were going to be successful. I mean, what unites them is, no, and before I answer that, let me say that I don't like to be obsessed by exit. one red flag I often see in a deck, although not so much these days, is, and we will exit in 3 to 5 years by this method or that method, and these are the buyers, and so on. And I'm thinking, hang on a second, let's build a great business. The exit will take care of itself. And, you know, I can tell you that through my experience, it takes 10 years to build any kind of sustainable business. Of course, there are exceptions to that, but I seldom see, looking back at a business and think, you know, until it got to the 10-year stage, it was still very formative in one way or another. You know, we're all into blitz scaling now and, you know, make it go as fast as you can, but get to what? Get to what point? Maybe another funding round, etc. As far as I'm concerned, each step is a foundation of what is a long-term, sustainable, great business. And the exit is a question of just like who owns it at that particular time. So I think thinking beyond one's own ownership and thinking longer term, like what is this business for? What's the purpose of it? How are we going to make it great? How are we going to make it sustainable? The minute you start thinking, how are we going to exit this? Who are we going to sell it to? Well, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that because there comes a time when it's the right thing to do. But I don't think it's the right way to start. That's not really answered your question, has it? Because you said
No, it is. I think it's a really, really good point because entrepreneurs have become the new rock stars, and the new rock stars by virtue of like, I want to exit, you know, in 3 to 5 years, as you said. But to me, an exit is the byproduct of a good business, you know,
exactly.
And like what you said there about the exit is the matter of just who owns it at any specific time. So no, you answered it greatly. Thank you. Given that.
I think what is, you asked about what's common, and when I look back on like what's common to those that have got a good exit is I think those who decided to sell when they didn't need to.
That's a good point.
If you're selling when you need to, you're probably not going to feel sort of great about it. If you sell when you want to, then you'll feel terrific.
Go out on a high is what you're saying.
Yeah, and when it's the right time for you, you know, yeah. The timing should be in your control, if at all possible.
What's a non-negotiable for you when you're investing at seed stage? What do you look for where it's like absolute non-negotiable for you guys to write a check?
Look, the most important thing for us is to believe in the founder. Because we invest so early, there's a limited amount of data that we can base our judgment on. So we have to judge it by, you know, the people, who's behind this, what's their motivation. And one of the first questions I like to ask is why? Why are you doing this? Because it is such a big step to start your own company. You must have thought about it quite a lot. So that should not be a difficult question to answer, you know, like why? So, and then we'll come on to what and how. But the first question is why? And I think, you know, we've got to feel that this individual's got some burning desire to do whatever it is for whatever reason. But knowing about why, I think, really tells us quite a lot and gives us the sort of confidence. And then, of course, we look for, you know, what have you done in the past, you know, to get to the point that you feel now is the time. So track record is important. And I see a lot of founders who want to jump straight into sort of venture capital. I've had the idea, now I want the venture capital, and then I'm going to get it going. What I like to see is people who've really, you know, bootstrapped, who've done a lot with a little, because I think that's what true entrepreneurs do. You know, when we met you, you know, we were not only knocked out by your personality, which comes across very very obviously. But, you know, you'd created a meaningful business beforehand. And you know, that was important, because we knew through that process you would have learnt a tremendous amount. So I think, you know, we can't ignore track record of one kind or another.
Yeah, so you made 3 really great points there that I want to like recap. The one is the absolute burning desire, and also thinking about them now, because I've never actually asked you about why you invested in Beautystack. I'm like, yeah, I can get how I fit into this. It was an absolutely burning desire to build something better and different for the beauty industry. So that's number one. The track record of you know, the fact that I had the Wild Nail Salon for, I think it was 6 or 7 years before, and essentially really grown that brand globally. And then the third thing in terms of bootstrapping, I always think that if you really want to make something happen, you will make it happen without funding, without sponsorship, or without anything involved. And, you know, I don't often say it publicly, but I actually gave up my friend's house and gave up my house and rented my best friend's spare room for 6 months so that I could save the money to build the prototypes. And with the prototypes, I came in to pitch you guys, because you invested when I was pre-product. We didn't even have an app or a web app at that point. But the money that I'd saved, I used for designs, because I always believe that having a visual and a vision can really help with a cold kind of, you know, no technology background presentation. Yeah. So, yeah, I see.
Well, you know, that track record counted for a lot. And, you know, I always also think that to start a business and to run a business successfully, you have to be able to sell your idea. First, sell it to yourself so that you're totally convinced you're doing the right thing. Then sell it to a friend, anybody. You then got to sell it to your team, you know, to your co-founder and your team, and then your angel investors. And, you know, the VCs are the last in the chain in a way, not the first. So I'd say don't rush to if you're a pure startup, don't rush to get your VC funding until you've done quite a lot of, you know, bootstrapping, refining, and selling, articulating the proposition. That's a nicer word than selling.
Completely. I'd done so much work before that on just thinking. I say it to founders all the time, don't underestimate the reflection, the thinking time, almost studying your business model, thinking about your craft. I treated, you know, investor blog post or a podcast as a study project, and I would do all my research and writing about it. So definitely, I think that by the time I got to pitch, I'd already done so much prep work before I'd gotten in front of VCs. My last question or point is that actually Suzanne Ashman, who's the partner who led my round at Localglobe, she just texted me last night to say that according to a recent study that is being done, I'm the only Black woman who has raised venture capital in the UK in the entire history of venture capital, which is both awful. It's really sad and really surprising. And I said to her, you know, a big worry for me is if I don't make it and our business isn't successful, then I've let down all of the Black women who are going to come and follow me. And she was like, you've already made it by virtue of the fact that you've raised. What is stopping Black founders raising money, and what initiatives have you taken at Localglobe?
Yeah, so look, I think we all come to the realization that this stuff needs to be done, and particularly I think people who have the ability to do something, and you know, and we do. So we take very, you know, very seriously that we and you need to lead the charge. And I suppose, you know, this interview is sort of part of it, you know. But I think that, you know, we start off by listening, then we go on to hearing, and then we adopt, and then we have to and are putting in specific actions to make this happen. I mean, I don't know that our numbers are really accurate enough, because we haven't even been asking people to, self-identify until recently. So it's really important that we get the data right. But, I think that our numbers are less than 5% of companies we back have got Black founders, and it should be, and we should shoot for 13%, because our core market is in London, and those are the numbers. So, I mean, we are doing a number of things, but it's a process. It's not an event. What we're doing is an event, but I think it's part of a process, and a process that is going to take time, but we will be sticking at it. I mean, fundamentally, we all know that diversity of all kinds adds significantly to the conversation and to the result. And it's something that we've worked on for a while, diversity of all kinds, but I mean, particularly now, I think this is getting a lot of attention, and so it should.
Well, we're going to wrap up there. I want to say thank you so much to Robin, not only for this conversation, but for backing and supporting me since 2018 it's been. Localglobe, I would say, are one of the best funds in London, if not the world. I find you guys so supportive as a founder, as a Black person and a woman. So please, please, please feel that you can approach them with a cold intro. Get in touch, because Localglobe have been massively supportive to me. Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you, Sean.